integrated nib. This is a Pilot New. It's not really integrated. Actually, the nib is like part of the body already. Open it up. Looks like it doesn't have a nib. So basically, you have to turn this and the nib comes out. And now we can go for my second and first. Oh, sorry. The second one was there. So this like broke number one. Hi, this is Kai from Kikai Craft. Today we are going to talk about nibs. So if you've seen my recent video on the Esterbrook Extra Fine Nib, I'll put a link up there for you. I have been, and all my previous videos actually about the different types of nibs that I have, I've really been diving into the world of nibs. And that's been happening for what, maybe the last 6 months or so. So right now, I think I am in kind of a good position to share with you what my top nibs are. And these are nibs in pens that are almost always, like 99% of the time, inked and in my daily rotation. Those would be my writers. But before we dive into those, I'd like to share with you a few of the nibs that I do think look very pretty or function really prettily, but not really part of my daily rotation, because I have the top 3 that I will be sharing that are actually very versatile or very good at what they do. So let's look at really interesting nibs first. So I do like nibs with designs. I think you've seen this on my Instagram. If you haven't yet, this is like my Flower Spring Trio. So this is the Sailor Pro Gear Hachimonjiya Kobusakura. It's a very pretty pen on its own. But when you look at the nib, I'm going to scoot you in. There we go. When you look at the nib, you will see that it has a sakura etched on it, and it's very pretty. This is a medium, right? It's really nice as a medium, but I really got this for the pen colorway, but especially for the nib. I had to have this sourced, I think, in the Philippines. Then I also have another flower nib pen. This is the Platinum 3776 Wagner 2021. I show this a lot on my channel. I am low-key in love with this, and one of the reasons I love it, apart from the beautiful colorway, is that flower on its nib. I think those are roses. So pretty. Okay, so this again is a wonderful writer. This is a medium, and I do ink that up once in a while, but it's not like always inked up. This one is a Sailor Pro Gear Kyono Otto, if I'm not mistaken. This is in a secret color. It's slightly different from the blue that you often see. It's like a robin's egg kind of blue, and it's quite fitting because if you look at the nib, it has like a tiny little bird on the nib. This, I think, oh, this is a zoom nib, and I had this tweaked by pen proclivity, so it becomes like a smaller zoom. So these are pretty. There's another one. This is from Endless Pens. It's a Manila Pen Show exclusive, and the nib on this is also pretty because it has coffee and pandesal, which is basically like a dinner roll from the Philippines. Something that we make. That's the coffee. And there's the pandesal, and that's like a usual breakfast or merienda in the Philippines. So like pens with etched inks are just wonderful decorative pieces to have. Then of course, let me scoot you out. All right, then of course we have a few nibs that are unique. For example, I have the integrated nib. This is a Pilot New. It's not really integrated. Actually, the nib is like part of the body already. This is Pilot Mew in black stripes with they call it an integrated nib. And also, of course, safety pens, because they are wonderful. This is a Mont Blanc Bohème. So for the nib, when you open it up, looks like it doesn't have a nib. So basically, you have to turn this and the nib comes out. And then you have to turn it back for the nib to go back in before you cap it. This is actually reminiscent of very old baby pens. This is a Waterman. I'll put a link up there because this is rich with the history. This is 100 years old. And again, no nib, but if you turn, you get the nib out as well. This is an eyedropper. So when you open it and close it, it has to be upright so you don't lose all the ink that's on it. So this, I mean, this is like interesting engineering. Oh yeah, before I forget, at the topic of interesting nibs or nibs with design, this is a Mont Blanc Ralph Louis Stevenson, and on its nib you will see the word Tusi Tala, which means storyteller in Samoan, because they thought that he was a great storyteller. It also has like water, okay, cat here, water and Samoan etchings on it. This is a beautiful piece if you're talking about Mont Blanc with lovely details. But these have like interesting nibs or pretty nibs or well-designed nibs. But I want to talk to you about nibs that I use all the time. So for me to show that, let's get a piece of paper so that we can sort of enjoy these nibs, and maybe you'll be able to understand why I enjoy these nibs a lot. Okay, so let's start off with the nib that I use for permanent ink. So a lot of us have different pens for different inks, and some of us get a little bit worried about using permanent ink on our pens. I'm one of those us. And so I decided to get a pen that I thought would be easy to clean, and also if anything happens to it, it wouldn't hurt my pocket so much. This is the Sailor 1911 Harappa Rabbit, and it has a medium fine nib. This pen is always inked up with a permanent ink. And if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can get the ink for you, because it's almost always within easy access. This comes with the Detrimentus Archive ink, so I always have only this one inked with it. Why? Because, well, it's not very hard for me, I suppose, to sort of lose it if it clogs up the nib, because I can easily clean it. But also because of the way it writes, and it's wonderful for journaling. I'm gonna scoot you in. Okay, and it's a fairly wet nib, so I'm gonna go ahead and write. See, it doesn't matter how long I leave the ink on this one. Every time I use it, it just automatically works. Like, I don't need to prime it. I think this is called the Prophet Junior. Prophet Junior Harappa. You can see it's very easy to work with. Let's just, and then try with a little bit of pressure. Nothing much you can do even with pressure. It's a fairly firm, stiff nib, but it doesn't hurt like to write with it. Even if my penmanship can be sometimes a little shaky, this is very forgiving towards that. Okay, I'm just gonna put this tray here so that you can see the range. Okay, oh, all right, I'll have a lot of pens here now. Okay, I don't know, this does not seem to be a good space for it. I'm gonna move it a bit. Okay, maybe this is better. Okay. All right, so that would be one of my top, I'd say my top 5 nibs that I have that I almost always have inked. Now I will go for another one. This one is the Nakaya Piccolo. Now this is interesting because not only does it have a very pretty nib, as you can see, and a very pretty section as well, it also is a fantastic writer. So this is in fine flex, I think. So let's go ahead and write with it. What do I like with this one? Why is it almost always inked since I got it? First off, I like the fact that it is a very beautiful piece, that the piccolo, sorry, that the section looks very pretty when I hold it. But I also like the nib a lot. It's quite bouncy. It's very responsive. Has a slight feedback to it. And it is also a slightly flex nib. So it's very pretty to have, and it's a great writer as well. Now we're going for the more adventurous nibs that I enjoy using. Let's just see if you're still in frame. I'm gonna try and scoot it out just a little bit. Okay, so the next one is fairly new. This is the Kaweco Galen Leather Carmine. It's a beautiful pen, but the real beautiful piece to this would be the nib. This is the dentist nib, otherwise known as a soft architect. And let's go ahead and have a look at how that translates to paper. So let's go for, you can already see the line variation actually. Kaweco Galen, and this is the architect, but they call it, it's like a soft architect, but they call it the dentist nib. Okay, so if I go vertical, it's quite thin. If I go horizontal, it's quite thick. So it's that kind of nib. But why do I like this particular one? Because it has, I don't know, it's a very juicy nib. And I like that in my nibs. I like to see a lot of ink coming out without it getting all gushy on me. And so this is like just the perfect type of wet line that I want. And it's just such a smooth writer. And I really appreciate this. I have been using it a lot in my writing, and it just allows my shaky hands to have like a flair to it without me needing to worry about whether or not I'm holding the pen or breathing properly. Then let's go to my top 2. These are like, I love this. And oh yeah, before I forget, my top 3, which will include this, are fantastic because I can actually move the nibs from one body to other bodies. So let's say I want this dentist nib on another Kaweco Sport of mine, I can just move that. It's not hard at all. So I can actually change the pens, the pen colorway, and keep the nib, which is actually the focus of everything that I'll be sharing with you. Okay, so the next one, the first slot and the second slot, it's like they're both number 1, okay? So this is an Esterbrook. It's a pretty piece. It's the ST and C glass, but the most interesting part of this is the nib. This one is like, it's been inked since I got it. It has what they call the Techo nib, and it is just Wow. Okay. Oh, maybe I need another paper for this. So these are like my 5th, 4th, 3rd. Let's put that away. And now we can go for my 2nd and 1st. Oh, sorry, the 2nd one was there. So this is like both number 1. Okay, so the techo, let me just write it in. This is the Esterbrook techo. Doesn't really look like it works wonders, right? Okay, now I'm going to scoot you in because you need to see this. Okay. Why do I like it so? Because it's like a zoom nib. You get a lot of line variation, but it's not so drastic, nor is it too juicy. So let's go for the lowest. So just go really low. I basically just push my hand down and you get this. And it's actually quite consistent. All right, so you get that. And then you go for the usual 45 degree, or yeah, roughly there. And you get a slightly thinner line width. You see that? And you see that? Okay. Then if you want an even thinner one, you just go perpendicular to the paper and you get an even thinner line width. So basically you're getting a bold. Okay, let's just go down. You're getting a medium and you're getting a fine. But that's not the end of it, because if you go and do a reverse, you get even thinner lines. And it's not scratchy at all. It works quite well even with reverse writing. Isn't that so cool? So this is like wonderful because you can use the techo nib. Oh yeah, you can also like move this to other STs, but you can use the techo nib when you, where's my little notebook? When you journal. So for example, let's just move you out a bit. Okay, don't know what's going on there. So for example, you want to journal like this. I use all these gold bits. They all use just the techo nib. So you can see it can go from here to here to here. You can write in your headlines, and then you can write in your entries, and you can go so tiny as well, all with just one nib. So it's a fantastic companion when journaling. And finally, my other number 1 nib is a flex nib. It's currently housed on Retro 51 body, but the nib on this one is actually a flex nib. This is an A to Z flex nib. Now I need to scoot you in again. Okay, I think this is good. Quite nice actually to look at. It has that keyhole breather hole. Let's go ahead and write what it is. So this is an A. This is no pressure. A2. By the way, it's currently inked with a shimmer ink. 14K. And now we're going to do a little bit of pressure. And this is not even a lot of pressure. Flex. So this one is no pressure. Although it's kind of hard really, you just literally have to glide the pen. Now we go for pressure on the downstroke. And no pressure. Pressure on the downstroke. No pressure. Does not railroad. And just like I don't know, manages shimmer ink like a boss. So this would be like both my number ones. They are almost, if not always, let's scoot you out, inked and in my rotation. So yes, those are like my top 5. This one to hold my permanent ink. This one because it's such a beautiful pen to write with. This one because of that slight shift in line widths whenever you write with it. It's not as sharp as an Architect, which I have tried, and it's much softer and much juicier. It also doesn't feel very scratchy when you write, but it doesn't feel scratchy at all actually. So definitely pens that I seriously, I've never had these pens with no ink since I got them, and these two especially. One because of the line variation, and this because of just how beautiful the flex is. I have just gotten a pen though that actually sort of surprised me, and I'm not sure how often I'm going to have this one inked, but it is giving my Sailor 1911 line width a run for its money. This is an extra fine nib, so this is from Esterbrook again, so we're just gonna write that in, and this has this super extra fine nib. So this is a JR with an EF nib, and if I write with it, it's just really smooth, nothing scratchy at all, but it also gives us good lines. Now my penmanship looks very shaky when it's that big, but actually if I even want to write small, it handles it quite well as well. So this is like some sort of a runner-up in my often ink. I just got this one inked, so I don't know, verdict is still out there for this one, but currently I am enjoying its extra fine. Okay, so going back to my top 5, here they are. Top 5 nibs. I have this Sailor medium fine because it's just wonderful to have with my permanent inks. Never had issues with it. I have the Naokaya Piccolo because of the beauty of its nib, and the fact that it's flex really works for me. Then I have the Kaweco with the dentist nib because of that lovely angling that's happening. The Techo from Esterbrook because of all the line variations I can get from just one ink. And finally, my favorite flex nib, and this is saying a lot because I do have a lot of flex nibs in my collection, from vintage to the newer ones to Omniflex to titanium, etc. This is definitely the winner. I always have it inked. I always invite those that I trust with nibs to try it out, and they're always blown away by just how beautiful the nib is. And the thing too is that since it is based off the Jowo number 6, it's a Jowo number 6 14K, I can move it around different bodies. So it's been in a Kasama, it's been in a few of my bespoke pens that can house Jowo number 6 nibs, and currently it is in my Retro 51. So that makes it quite an interesting nib to have, regardless of whatever body or colorway I'm going for the few months that I have it there. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for those who are diving into the deeper part of fountain pens, which would be choosing different nibs that would fit what we do. And as always, this is Kai from Kikai Craft. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day or a restful evening. Bye everyone.